My son, take my life back. Rising, I don't know where I want to be. I'd done been in paper
Yesterday kept wildfires burning. Emergency crews are battling more than 100 fires. In all, 600 firefighters have been deployed, and the number of people forced from their homes is in the thousands. As well, 2 buildings have been destroyed at the Montreal Lake First Nation. The CBC's Carolyn Dunn has more from Prince Albert.
Chief Edward Henderson from Montreal Lake confirmed to CBC News that at least 1 house and 1 fourplex were destroyed by fire. We're waiting to hear if the threat remains in that community, if there has been more loss overnight. We know it was very dangerous last night, dangerous enough that firefighters on the ground were actually forced to leave the area around 8 o'clock. Waiting for an update from the province on that. There are 286 homes on Montreal Lake. Most of them are clustered into one subdivision of about 50 homes, and that's just one community. There are about 20 that are similarly threatened in Saskatchewan.
The CBC's Carolyn Dunn in Prince Albert. There is major fire activity in Alberta and British Columbia as well. It's the day before a vote in Greece that could rattle the European Union and shake markets around the world. Greeks will say yes or no tomorrow to a bailout from the International Monetary Fund and European bankers. The bailout would impose even deeper austerity measures, including more pension cuts and higher taxes. The finance minister is calling Greece's creditors terrorists for instilling fear and forcing the country to temporarily close its banks. The CBC's Jeff Semple has more from Athens.
No more campaigning allowed from here on in now that we're less than 24 hours away from that big vote. But everywhere you go in the city, in coffee shops and restaurants, everyone is talking about either nay or ohi, yes or no, the decision that the Greek people will be faced with at this time tomorrow. Last night, this square where I'm standing now in front of the Greek parliament was packed with more than 20,000 people, anti-austerity protesters calling for a no vote tomorrow. When at the same time, just down the street, less than a kilometer away, the Yes campaign was holding a rally of its own. Fitting that the two rallies were happening so close together, given that the race itself appears to be so close. The latest public opinion polls released last night show just 1 percentage point separating the no from the yes side, with about 10% of people reportedly still undecided. The CBC Jeff Semple in Athens. 4th of July celebrations are underway in the U.S. The country celebrates its Independence Day, but amid the patriotism, the possibility of terrorism is keeping officials vigilant, and New York in particular is seeing increased security. The CBC's Stephen D'Souza is there.
There is the case of a heightened sense of concern here. 7,000 additional officers for the NYPD spread out across the city, specifically focusing on areas where there are going to be large crowds. But what we've heard from the Department of Homeland Security, as well as the FBI, is that there's no specific or credible threat, but they do want law enforcement to be vigilant on this 4th of July weekend. So as I mentioned, NYPD has increased its deployment across the city. The Governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, has instituted the state's emergency operations center, so that means they're going to be monitoring thousands of cameras. We're hearing reports of snipers on rooftops. They say they're going to have people out in crowds spotting, as well as checking boats in the harbor. So definitely a heightened response. You see it everywhere you go here in the city.
The CBC's Stephen D'Souza in New York. Tunisia's president has declared a state of emergency more than a week after a gunman killed 38 tourists at a resort in Sousse. The edict will give more power to police and limit the right of public assembly. In the past week, an additional 1,400 officers have been deployed to popular tourist destinations. And finally, Canada's Vasek Pospisil has advanced to the 4th round at Wimbledon with a 5-set win over Britain's James Ward today. It's the first time Pospisil has reached the 4th round of a Grand Slam tournament, winning today in Wimbledon. And that is CBC News. I'm Saturday Afternoon.